What's up, everybody? Bryan Zane here. I just got done watching AEW's Revolution pay-per-view, and I'm really happy and excited to talk about what I watched this evening, and I want to give you my thoughts. First of all, I love a pay-per-view that starts off with an ad for DraftKings. Then we go to our first match of the evening as Ricky Starks takes on Chris Jericho in their grudge match. Ricky starting out pretty strong here as the match begins. Big dive of the outside. Jericho then spends many minutes on top pretty much soon after that. Kind of a scary-looking version of that double underhook backbreaker he does too. Jericho with the triangle drop kick later on. Starks with some hard rights out of the abdominal stretch. Gets some hope spots, but Jericho keeps the pressure on. Codebreaker is blocked into a power bomb. Both guys run the ropes. Spears counter with another codebreaker. Jericho with the flying nothing. It gets dodged. The spear and the kick out. We get the super face-to-face push against. Very intimate here. Starks with the super kick that turns into a drop kick. Cool little counter out of the walls into the half crab. In comes Sammy Guevara, who is banned from ringside here, but then Action Andretti comes from out of nowhere and stops him. Jericho grabs the bat. He gets out of the hold, dinks Ricky with the bat. Still not enough. The Judas effect is blocked. Hell yeah. Starks hitting the Rochambeau to decisively win this matchup. I'm going to give this one 3 stars out of 5. It was a fairly straightforward matchup here. In fact, I was kind of surprised at the overall lack of bells and whistles / smoke and mirrors thrown at this thing. There were a couple of misdirections involving Guevara, and then there was the stuff with the bat, which to me felt a little awkward how they were kind of going through that. There was a moment where I felt maybe somebody was late on a cue, or I don't know, this just felt kind of awkward to me at that point, but then they kind of recovered fairly soon after that. Big win for Ricky, obviously. They make a big point of the fact that very few people have beaten Chris Jericho twice in AEW, so it is treated as a big deal, and hopefully whatever Ricky goes to next will help just kind of build his stock even more. What was originally billed as a no-holds-barred match with Christian Cage and Jungle Boy became the final burial over the weekend. Essentially, it was a casket match. Same basic rules applied here, only here the casket is on the stage as opposed to at ringside like what you would used to see in WWE, for instance here. Each man has their street fight attire. Jungle Boy's tribute to Shawn Michaels in 2002, Christian with the permanent turtleneck. They quickly brawl their way up into the crowd on the stage for a bit before Christian takes over. He blows a kiss to Jungle Jack's family in the crowd, which the camera was not ready for apparently. Christian goes for the leap over the ropes and the smack, but JB dodging it and just starts beating the hell out of Christian. Goes to stomp on the injured arm, but Cage dodges and trips Jungle Boy onto them. Cage grabbing Jack's belt and whipping him with it. Cage opens the casket, brings out some chairs. They're fighting on that dirt mound now. Going for the kill switch on the chair, but JB counters, shoving him to the floor. Big perk angle plancha. Christian begging him off, but he hits him with Dick Kick City. Goes to shove Jack into the casket and close the lid. Jack fights back. Kill switch on the dirt. JB's able to dodge the concerto. Grabs a shovel. They try choking each other. It's very visceral and physical here. The snare trap is applied. Christian's like, let me get this shovel handle into my mouth real quick. He passes out. Jungle Boy doing his own concerto with the same sequence of shots that he did last year in that big 6-man brawl with the Young Bucks. Dragon CC's lifeless body into the casket. They have a moment. Jungle Boy slams the casket shut. Then the casket just drops and there's a puff of smoke. I loved that. This one gets 3.5 stars out of 5 for me. I think it was a very entertaining brawl. I liked the callbacks that this match had to other moments in the feud up to this point. And again, I gotta give it some extra points just for the way that casket dropped. I did not expect that. I didn't expect to fall at all. There was a part of me kind of internally, I was thinking, wouldn't it be funny if it was meant to be a slow descent and then something just breaks and it just drops really fast? But no, that was a fun little tweak that I didn't expect. Kind of their own spin on the casket match. It didn't feel like an exact replica of like what WWE has done with that match. So I think that these guys had a nice kind of bow on their feud. It sucks because I think that Christian Cage's injury really slowed things down. I think adding the whole Luchasaurus being a heel but not, and then being a heel again, that was just kind of felt like a way to kind of keep the storyline going in the wake of that injury. So it got a little muddled in the middle, but I think the beginning and the end of this Jungle Boy Christian rivalry, I think, were both done really well. In the next match for the World Trios Championships, you have the Elite defending against the House of Black. Match begins with some solid chain work between Omega and Buddy Matthews, then Malachi Black. Then it's time for all 6 guys to get their stuff in. Matt trying to outpace Brody King, but King just throwing him off the top turnbuckle, showing the strength. Omega tags in, goes on a nice run, many kicks and knees. Julia Hart trips up. Jackson gets the Jezebel call by JR. Saves from getting his head ripped off by King. Julia's back on the apron and is up there there for a long time before she's knocked off by Omega. House of Black have Omega outnumbered and cornered for about 10 seconds before the Bucks re-enter and activate the Superkick party. The BTE trigger pin is broken up. The Meltzer driver intercepted by a nasty knee from Buddy. Mac gets messed up, and the House of Black are the new Trios champions. I give it 4 stars out of 5. This match to me felt very similar to the vein of what we have come to expect from the Elite especially, but I think the House of Black also really brought it on this one. Some of the biggest and most impactful strikes you will see on this whole show to me took place in this matchup, and I think they had a really great rapport, all 6 guys. The finish especially I thought was rad. Very shocking to me to see House of Black winning the belts. I think it's a great move for them, and I think that especially considering how rudderless their direction was for a while last year, it's good to see them win here, and hopefully that will steer them towards something even bigger and better. I love that team. I love their look and their vibe, and them as champions has a lot of great potential. Again, seeing the Elite lose the belts was kind of a surprise to me. Maybe they'll get them back or who knows what, but I think that was still a great match. Women's Championship on the line up next as Jamie Hayter defends against Saraya and Ruby Soho, who's rocking a bit of a new look tonight. Saraya dumps Hayter over the barricade. Ruby just dives onto her, then a crossbody off the barricade. They all fight through the crowd. Hayter with a big slam to Saraya on the apron, which is the first of what turns out to be like a lot of moments in this matchup where Saraya takes some of the most devastating looking bumps onto her head and neck area, which I don't know if it's because she came back from the injury and so we're all just kind of hyper aware of that, and so seeing those bumps feels riskier and just feels kind of like weird to watch for her. I don't know if they're any more impactful than other similar bumps other people take and we just don't think about it because their neck has not been an issue. But yeah, that was just a vibe that I caught from this match a lot from Saraya. These ladies are all hitting hard. Saraya gets ping-ponged. She yells, "Stop!" Then she gets beat up again. We get a Tower of Doom spot. Saraya dumping Jamie onto her head. Ruby hits Destination Unknown. Looks like Hayter misses the breakup with a pin by like a half second though. Jamie and Ruby exchange pinfalls. Jamie wins in kind of a surprise outcome here. The crowd didn't expect it. Toni Storm beating up Jamie right after the bell. Ruby's all sad in the corner as Jamie and Britt Baker are attacked. Ruby dumps out the baddies. She says this is their home. Get some respect from Jamie, but psych, there's the kick. Toni shitcans a cameraman, destroys his camera for no reason. Okay. Ruby, Saraya, and Storm are now together and they spray paint over Jamie and Britt. And you know what? Mr. Ooh La La was sitting and watching the show with me tonight and he had this great line saying, nothing better than a heel with a fun theme song. Because yeah, Ruby, 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 Ruby said, boo, I don't like you. This one gets 3.5 stars out of 5 for me. I really enjoyed the physicality in this matchup here. Like I said, all the ladies hit each other pretty hard. They all kind of bump their asses off for each other. They definitely put in the work. And I think the finish was kind of a shock. I like the sudden finish of it. It really kind of helped build and make more sense for the post-match aftermath. Something that, I'm not sure, maybe they will explain it in something on Dynamite, but it feels like, was this premeditated for her to pick her side and join Saraya? Like, were they all in on it after they just had a fight? Or was this something after the fact Ruby made her choice? And then Saraya's like, it's okay, you beat me up earlier, like 5 minutes ago, because now we're friends. Up next, Texas Death as Jon Moxley takes on Hangman Page in a brutal, bloody affair. First off, Hangman gets a new coat of paint for his entrance, comes out to a cover of Ghost Riders in the Sky, along with some Fiend lighting. There's brawling to start things off, of course. Moxley grabbing the barbed wire, but Page is the first one to use it. Moxley gets his bleeding out of the way early. Page taking a long time trying to barbify his leg. Looks kind of awkward. Moxley takes out a fork, gets caught in a submission, but then takes multiple stabby stabs with the fork, which is gross. Chair wrapped in barbed wire is put into play. It's placed in the corner. Page runs into it. The chair is used in many different ways on Hangman. Chairs are backed up against each other. Moxley almost powerbombed spine first onto the tops, but is moved just slightly. Big ass moonsault to the outside with the barbed wire assist. Moxley grabbing some bricks and a chain. We get a brick handwich. Nasty looking pile driver onto Page on the chain, but he's not counted out just yet. Page with some rolling elbows with the barbed wire, the dead eye onto the chair. Moxley knocked into the barbed wire board on the floor, and he goes through a wave of emotions. Up on the top turnbuckle, back rakes with barbed wire. Paige dumped off the top and crashing through another barbed wire board. Paige goes to the buckshot. Moxley with the Death Rider. Stomp on the bricks. Paige barely avoiding the count as some fans chant the Seth Rollins song. Paige is still fighting, teasing some evil intentions with the bricks. Moxley goes to Dick Kick City and they're booing him for it. Moxley with the chain around his neck. He gets clothesline choked over the rope. Moxley taps out and Paige wins. 4 stars out of 5 for me on this one. I think that stuff with like the fork spots and some barbed wire things, it's not for me. I know it's different strokes for different folks, but I can't discount the kind of drama and the storytelling they had in this thing and how they were able to kind of use the weapons and weave that in with the story they were telling. I think it was, again, another kind of shocking conclusion to me that Hangman goes over the way he does. Maybe now Moxley can finally take that well-earned vacation. Yeah, one of those things where it was hard to look away from it, as gross as it was at times, but it didn't detract too much from my enjoyment of the match overall. And like I said, Paige winning the way he did, it was shocking, but it was also huge for him. I said in my predictions video, I was going to be kind of disappointed if he didn't win because of just the direction he's been going on since he lost the belt. But a win like this, I think, is going to go a big way in kind of reestablishing him and reaffirming him as one of the top guys in AEW. Up next, TNT Championship as Samoa Joe defends against the man he beat for it in Wardlow. Bit of a return match here. Wardlow's got his short haircut. Looks real bland, looking small next to Samoa Joe, and with that very nondescript singlet he's wearing. It's a haymaker fest from the get-go. Joe with a diving elbow through the ropes early on. Whisper in the Wardlow off the top rope. Wardlow after this, though, gets beat up a lot in this match. It's weird seeing him take so much heat. Wardlow comes back, hits a swanton. There's a kick out. Joe with the coquina clutch, but Wardlow is able to fight out of it and get a rope break. Fighting in the corner, Wardlow powerbombing Samoa Joe. No symphony though. Wardlow putting his own clutch on Joe, makes him pass out. Wardlow wins and regains the TNT Championship. I give this one 2 stars out of 5. It's my pick for the weakest match of the night, and I feel bad about it, but I mean, this was not a good showing, I think, for Wardlow. I mean, like I said, the haircut's pretty bland now, and he's in these just generic black on charcoal gray outfit for his singlet, and I don't know, he just didn't look very strong against Samoa Joe, and I think one of the things that got fans to rally around him so much, so fast, was his big man squash match ability. I'm not saying this should have been a squash, but Wardlow definitely should have gotten more heat on Joe than he did. He just kind of looked like a regular dude next to Joe, the way that match went down. I don't think that was a good look for him. I mean, it's good to see him back as a champion again, but I feel that the match could have gone a little bit different. And I will say, though, I am excited to see the Wardlow Powerhouse Hobbs match this Wednesday for the title. In your semi-main event, it's a 4-way match for the tag team titles. The Guns defending against the Acclaimed, Triple J, and the team of Orange, Cassidy, and Danhausen. I love the pay-per-view attire that Orange and Danhausen had here, matching in the black. Jarrett and Orange doing some shtick to begin here. Danhausen runs in the corner multiple times as Orange slowly revs up his line, which is pretty funny. Acclaim with scissor me timbers on Sanjay Dutt. Austin Gunn with a nice stalling vertical onto Bowens. Get a 4-man Fargo strut and some scissoring from the heels before Bowens breaks it up. Caster gets dumped over the top rope, hits his back on the apron in a not great looking way. Satnam Singh gets in the ring. We get the face-off with he and Danhausen. Talk about the irresistible force and the immovable object. Sanjay is involved and gets beat up. Satnam gets beaten up as well. Daddy Ass goes to the famouser, but just kind of sits on Singh's back. The Guns with what could be described as a double low blow on their own dad, but at least one of them missed. Arrival and the mic drop, but the pin is broken up. Jarrett brings in the guitar, goes for El Kabong, but is stopped. Caster stopped by the referee. Why wasn't Jarrett? Lethal decking Caster with a golden globe, but Max kicks out. Jarrett and Aubrey get into it for a second. Danhausen goes on a bit of a run, gets hit with a 310 to Yuma. The Guns win, and the audience couldn't care less. I give it 3.5 stars out of 5. At the beginning, there was a period of time where the match kind of felt like it was clunky and all over the place. Just a lot of bodies moving around, but not really doing anything, it felt like. But then things kind of settled down before it was right around the halfway point, and to me, really improved. I think the run-ins and the shtick from the people on the outside and from Danhausen and from Orange Cassidy. I think that all worked really well. And like I thought was going to happen, the Guns kind of escape from this thing, at the end, because there is so much shit going on in this match. It'd be weird for any of the other teams just to win because there's so many people involved. After the match, we get this post-match promo with the Guns. Austin asking who the Ass Boys are now. They say they've beaten everybody. FTR's music plays though. Dax and Cash make their way out. They brawl. Spike piledriver to Colton. Somehow Dax got a major cut over his eye, even though he's doing the beating in this. Big rig to Austin. FTR hold up the belts. Well, it makes sense for FTR to come back and bring things kind of full circle with the Guns, considering their history last year, back when they had all the different tag titles. So it makes sense this kind of setting up for FTR to regain the AEW belts from Austin and Colton. That should be pretty good. And I think it's going to set a lot more speculation in motion about possibly CM Punk returning, because FTR is getting a push now, and that's all interconnected. The one thing I will say, though, we need to occasionally have post-match promos that actually just end with the winner getting their say and they don't get interrupted, because every time they have these promos, somebody comes out to continue the angle, so it's just a dead giveaway each time. On we go now to our main event of the evening, the 60-minute Iron Man match for the AEW title as MJF defends against Bryan Danielson. And Friedman, by the way, got his own special pay-per-view entrance. Got this string orchestra wearing creepy masks. MJF comes out wearing his devil mask from All Out when he won the poker chip. And then the bell rings. MJF and Danielson with a great exchange early on where they just go back and forth on headlocks and hip tosses, double kip up. MJF going outside into the crowd. He dumps trash on one fan, dumps water on a kid. All the heel heat. He even shouts to the camera at Dave Meltzer. Get lots of back and forth in this matchup, of course. Danielson dives to the outside, hurts his shoulder in the process. 15 minutes in, a big sunset flip powerbomb off the turnbuckle. MJF works the arm while Bryan works the leg. Both men start countering pinfalls back and forth over and over, and at this point I think they're just trying to blow up Bryce Remsburg. About 25 minutes in, Danielson with the Busaiku knee, getting the first pinfall here. MJF with a low blow right in front of the referee. He gets DQ'd, but MJF gets two quick pinfalls right afterward. Suddenly it's tied up. The figure four is applied for a long time. Some slaps are exchanged. Taz with the call of the night in regards to Bryan Danielson. He's not a fun-loving vegan. MJF with a diving elbow from the top of the timekeeper's table. Bryan barely escaping the count out. MJF with a tombstone through what's left of the table. He aggravates that knee injury. The ref should really do more counting at this point. They're both on the outside for a while. Heat Seeker, MJF with a cover. Now it's up 3-2 with 20 minutes to go. MJF drinking his third or fourth water of the match. MJF firmly in control for a while, taunting Danielson often. Bryan coming back, dives off the apron and the top rope to the outside. Then he does a diving headbutt in the ring onto like MJF's arm or shoulder. But then we see MJF profusely bleeding after that. What happened? Did Bryan land on his chest like a tube of toothpaste? It all comes up. MJF taps the Regal stretch, and we're tied with 10 minutes left, fighting through submissions. Salt of the earth on for a good long time. MJF getting almost all the limbs, but Danielson still with a rope break. They trade headbutts. Both men are worn down right at the 5-minute mark. Heat Seeker gets a kick out. MJF with another bottle of water, which gets an H2O chant. MJF with a super tombstone, which wrecks his knee. Danielson with a half crab. MJF holding on for over a minute, and time expires. It's a 3-3 draw. MJF seemingly retaining the championship, but then Tony Schiavone gets word from Tony Khan that the match will now go to sudden death. Each man trying to do a roll-up. There's kickouts. MJF's got the belt. It's taken away from him, but he pulls out the diamond ring, gets hit with the Busaiku knee, but MJF still kicks out. There's a leg lock. The ref removing the ring from MJF. He grabs the rope and he taps at the same time, which confuses Danielson. MJF grabbing an oxygen tank and dinks him. The bell lock is on Danielson. He tries to fight out of it, but he fades and taps. MJF retains the championship as we go off the air. I give this one 5 stars out of 5. I loved this matchup. I went into this thing not getting ready to love it because I've already made my stance clear on how I feel about Iron Man matches. The last one I saw was Bret and Shawn. I know there have been better ones since then, but I know it's just been a while for me since I've seen things like Rock and Triple H or Lesnar and Angle. But I think this match kind of tops them all. I think that hour of regulation just flew by for me. I loved the action in this one. It was was certainly holding my attention a lot more than Shawn and Bret did a couple of weeks ago. I think that MJF gave a great performance here. I think it was a little too good at times. I think that him valiantly fighting through the submissions and stuff, I don't know if that really falls in line with his character. I mean, if you want to plant more seeds for him to be a babyface at some point, that's cool. I think it's a little too early for that, though, I would say. And there were also a lot of times where there's dead time where they're both outside for the longest time, but the referee's not counting, or he's going out there with them, and that kind of stuck in my craw a little bit in this one. But those are kind of nitpicks because, like I said, the action in this one. And the story they told with MJF's leg and Danielson's arm, so well done. I really enjoyed this one. And the sudden death period was also very exciting. The end almost really had me guessing that Danielson was going to win this one time and time again. So I think, I will say, MJF probably used every single one of the false finishes and hope spots you could do in a single reign, but he did it all in one match, just in that end of regulation, sudden death time period. Still a great match, did exactly what it was meant to do, made a star out of MJF, really solidifying that championship reign. Danielson, I think he probably loses a bit too much for his own good. I think it's great he's giving back to the next generation and everything, but I think it might have had a risk of deflating the fans here, but it was still, everything before that ending was still a phenomenal match. My grade for AEW Revolution 2023 is an A-. I thought this was overall a really enjoyable show, and I think it really hinged on the success of the Iron Man match for me. Because like I said, I went into it with very generally low expectations as far as how well I'd be entertained, but it was a darn good matchup, and I think that really helped elevate the rest of this show for me, which is already pretty strong because I think the gimmick matches worked well for me. The multi-person matches were pretty solid. Only one match I didn't care for, and I don't know how much of it had to do with it immediately following Moxley and Page, and how much of it just had to do with the way they blocked that match out, and how much of a jobber at times Wardlow looked, getting the heat or taking the heat from Samoa Joe at times. Like I said, great work put forth by everyone involved in the main event. It's not just the wrestlers, it's also the referee, it's also commentary, it's everybody, and it's also the fans. And the fact that they were still hanging on everything throughout that match for the entire 60 minutes, that is an impressive feat in and of itself. The fact that the Bryan and MJF were able to do that. So, and besides that Iron Man match, most of the other performers in this show more than held up their end of the bargain as well. So it's definitely a show worth checking out. But what did you think about Revolution, folks? I want to hear about it in the comment section below. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and click the little bell icon to get all the notifications. This month, of course, we're heading toward WrestleMania, so it's a WrestleMania-themed bunch of content every Wednesday this month. We just covered WrestleMania 12 last week, which makes a lot of sense. Iron Man match then, Iron Man match now. And this week we are doing a countdown of the worst WrestleMania main events, or at least my opinion of that anyway. But until then, folks, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.